Hi guys, welcome back to La La Land, and today I'm going to be talking to you about Rangers Apprentice, the ruins of Gorland. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, so it's been a while since I read this book, so forgive me on how badly I remember it. But so I read this book right after I read The False Prince. It was literally the same day I finished The False Prince I started this book. And because of that, because I just finished The False Prince, this kind of seemed like a less good book. However, previously to reading The False Prince, I had read almost half of the book and I loved it. But then coming back from The False Prince, I seemed to not enjoy it as much. However, I still enjoyed it a lot. So let's talk about it. So first of all, I want to say that in my past two book review videos, they were less like reviews and more like sort of discussions almost. So I'm going to try to remedy that, and I'm sorry. But also I'm going to be trying to do a little bit of a spoiler-free review, and then going into the spoilers of the review. I really hope that I'm able to pull this off and complete it entirely, and I hope you enjoy it. Okay, so first off, spoiler-free, obviously, is just sort of the description of the book. And now you can go to the back of the book and just read the description, which actually I should probably do. Okay, I just read the description of the back. It was pretty good. But, so basically what this book is about is there are, in this world, there's these castle wards who, if their parents die in like service to the king or whatnot, the king will sort of like take them into sort of like an orphanage in his castle. And then when they turn 15, all of the sort of not trade masters, what are they called? Craft masters. All of the craft masters choose who they are going to train in their sort of craft, and they have like a few months to figure out whether or not they stay, they go, they quit, they're expelled. And so Will wants to be a warrior. Also in this world are rangers, which honestly are just such a cool idea. Like, they're sort of like the fantasy dream every child has, and then they were put into real life. So rangers are like these super secret spy warriors who have really cool blades and bow and arrows, and they sort of like they protect the kingdom, and they stop battles before they become battles, basically. And so it's about his story and what happens with his life, what goes on there. It actually just says he's obviously, you know, the Rangers Apprentice in this book. What? But yeah, so that's kind of like the description of it. So just to like highlight what I really enjoyed or didn't enjoy about this book, I'm just kind of going to go over the highlights, and then in the spoilers I'm going to go into depth. So first of all, the characters in this book, I love the characters in this book. My sister read all of these books, and she listened to a few of them, so I've heard scenes from other books, and I can't wait to get there. So the characters in this book are so lovable. You love them so much. We've got a few good arcs in here as well. The relationships are also very, very well done. I really enjoy the Rangers and the Apprentices relationship in here, along with a few others that are just some good relationships. I think the author did a very good job with those, and I think that as these books progress, they're going to get stronger and stronger. The storyline was very well done. My one thing with the storyline, I will say that it wasn't like, usually I wasn't expecting the storyline to be the way it did, but in all honesty, it was the right choice. Like, it didn't have this like grand, epic
two sides of the army coming together and clashing in their final battle.
It was more like you know, war takes time, and they had to first like get through these, they had to do this battle, and they had to do this battle, and they have to do this battle, and there's multiple battles. until it leads up to the great battle. So I liked that it wasn't just like full out war all of a sudden. It was taking its time, and I enjoyed that. This had good world building. We didn't get to see a lot of the world. But from what we did see, whether it was from the creatures or just mentions, it sounds like it has a pretty good idea of world building, and it was a very livable, real world to me. It had good humor. I love humor in my books. Even if it's just sort of like dry humor or sarcastic humor or just like ironic humor, I need humor in my books. It makes me laugh. I enjoy humor, and this did have humor, which I was glad about. It also has some good fights and action, messages about bullying, which are always good, just to have some underlying messages. You don't usually want them sort of like blinking in your face with like a red light, but it's always good to have some messages, and this one had a good one about bullying. I will say, like, I feel like this book moves very fast, which is an odd thing because the storyline, very much, like I said earlier, it's not rushing into war all of a sudden. However, I feel like many things that could have been stretched out of a longer time were done in here very quickly, which makes me kind of feel like this is a much more maybe character-based plot, maybe not character-driven, but more character-focused, I think. And while I think like that he could have maybe stretched a few things out over a couple of books and that maybe would have been better, I still enjoy very much the way that he did those things. I'm not saying like, oh, that happened way too fast, you should have taken your time. It makes sense in the circumstances. He did a good job. You enjoy reading it still. And so like that's one of my like only really complaints about the book. So this book, it's a good book. I think that the series will continue to get better. It's not the strongest first book I've ever read, and honestly, I'm only able to say that because I read The False Prince, because that was like the best first book to any series I think I've ever read. Well, no, actually, no. 100 covers. I don't know. Anyway, this isn't the greatest of all time and epic first book to begin a series. However, it is still a very good book, and I think the series will just continue to get better, so I'm excited to read it. Alright guys, now we're going to spoilers. So as I said, I'm just going to the things I touched on, I'm just kind of going to go in depth, talk about the things I didn't like, things I did like, things that were so easy to predict, things that I didn't see coming. So first off with characters is, I like Will's setup and arc. I think the author did a very good job with that, and like I said, I think this book is more character focused. So Will, and it's kind of been a while since I've read this, so I'm trying to remember, he really wants to go to battle school. He wants to be a warrior. He wants to be like his father, even though he doesn't know what his father was. He kind of has this image in his brain. And so he's just so tied up in being a warrior, so when it doesn't happen, he just doesn't know what to do with himself. And that kind of stands in the way of him truly enjoying and meeting his full potential of being a ranger. And when he finally is ready to accept that, he's able to grow so much more. And his arc in the book of being a ranger and then you go to the warrior, not being such a child at times, I don't know, I'm trying to remember, was very good and I enjoyed it. Also, I just really like Will. Like, he kind of reminded me of Sage in The False Prince, just a little. And I really do like that kind of character type where it's kind of, I don't know, you'd have to read the books to like kind of know what the character type is. Also, Horace's arc was very well done. I enjoyed his arc a lot. You start out really not liking Horace. He's the ward bully. He's mean to our main character. You don't like him. And then the author gives you chapters from his perspective, and you start really feeling sorry for him. He's getting bullied, and he's being just treated badly, and he doesn't tell anyone because he's like, oh, it's just what happens. So his arc from being the bully to experience the bullying and eventually standing up to the bullies while defending the person he used to bully was very well done. I very much enjoyed it. It was very nice. How he jumped in front of Will to save him from the boar, how he followed the brats who was going to go attack Will. It was all very well done, and I very much enjoyed it. This is one of the things that I said that could have been stretched over a few books, just because, like, you know, they're always so, like, clashing heads, and then they're like, buddies! But even though that's just a suggestion that it could have been stretched, I think the author did a very good job on that and on their friendship, which I'll get to in a minute. And I think I'm really going to enjoy this friendship in the future. Another sort of arc, just a small one, was sort of Horace's arc, which we didn't get to see a lot of. It was just sort of more him warming up to Will, his smile, which was like, oh, and how I think we didn't truly get to see how much it meant to him when Will chose not to be a warrior but a ranger, thus like completing Will's arc for the story. And I think Horace and Will it's gonna be a really good relationship, and they just both grew so attached to each other, and I really like that. Also, I just really like Halt. Okay, so relationships. Who the heck is that? Okay, yeah. Okay, so Gillian and Halt, honestly, my sister told me so many things about these books that I expected this scene to be in like book 3 or book 4, when like Halt is trying to surprise his apprentice and they're having this little query battle, and I'm sure this happens in more than one book, which I like when I like when authors return to subjects that they've set up as like an annual event or something that happens a lot. I like when they actually go through with that instead of just showing it to you once and then being like,
yeah, it just happens every few years, you know.
And so their relationship was honestly really well done, and it was sort of like a preview to what Will and Halt's relationship will become. And it was a really nice relationship. Like, I don't know how to phrase this. It was sweet. It was funny. It was more of a funny relationship, sort of. Halt and Will's relationship, it wasn't obviously to the extent of Gillian and Halt's, but Halt saw so much potential in Will, and Will was like,
what do you want with me?
And they grew close to each other, and Will learned to appreciate everything Will was showing him, and they forged a bond, and I think that bond is going to go so much farther now. Horace and Will, another, like I said, this did seem almost just a little rushed, but honestly, under the circumstances, like saving someone's life from a boar, I'd probably be up for being friends with that person too. So I don't think it's anything too just shocking or anything like that. Which even though I had that thing was kind of like, this was a little fast, I honestly still really... Okay guys, so about halfway through my video, I was just about finished and I found out my camera stopped. So, I'm gonna have to do this all again. Okay, so I was talking, I believe, about Will and Horace's relationship. I'm all the way back there. Okay. Hopefully I don't forget anything, but I went into like so much detail on this that I'm probably not gonna A, I'm not gonna be able to remember everything I said, and B, I'm probably not gonna do as great of a job, and I'm sorry, but I talked for a really long time. So I think I was saying how I didn't like how it was rushed so much, but at the same time, I think under the circumstances that I'd probably also be like,
Guys, save me from a boar.
You know, like, I'm like, I'm pretty sure you're not going to have problems after that. And I think I said I really, really liked how Horace was the one who led the cheering when Will was chosen to be a warrior. And it was just a very endearing relationship. I think it's going to go far in the book. I don't remember if I said this before, but since this is more of a character-focused book, it's setting up a lot of things. So when I'm saying I think I'm going to see more of this in this book, it's not saying that, you know, you didn't see enough of it. It's just saying that it's definitely going to grow and it's going to be better. Horace and Will. I'm sorry, I really don't want to do this all again. Horace and Will's relationship was really good. And that was also well done. It wasn't obviously to the extent of Gil and Halt yet because they've only known each other for a few months. But just having, I can't remember what I've said this whole time. I really can't remember, so if I repeat myself, I'm sorry. Just having Halt warm up to Will, having him be more responsive to Will, having them sort of annoy each other. It was good. It was good. I'm going to look forward to it.
I'm not enthusiastic. I'm sorry I'm not enthusiastic, but like, this probably took me like 20 minutes to get through it. Now I have to redo it. Yeah, I've been here for like 20 minutes. Okay.
That was a really good relationship. I really liked it. I can't wait to see more of it. I really can't remember what I said. I went into detail with like observations and facts and like examples with all of these things. And I'm really not going to be able to do that again, guys, so I'm sorry. So Rodney and Baron, it was a really nice side relationship. They seemed tight like buddies. The Baron and the Wards was an interesting relationship just because he's kind of like this gruff guy and then he has like these kids and it's not like he's like, come little kids, sit on my lap, but he was sweet and personal and he cared about them and I thought that was a nice relationship. Again, I'm sorry. I like relationships a lot in books and friendships especially, which is why I'm so sorry that I can't go into detail about this because I did, but I'm sorry, guys. I'm really sorry. The storyline, I liked the storyline. I thought the storyline did a good job. Like I said, it did a good job not rushing the plot where it wasn't like 5 pages left, giant army, let's charge. It was more sort of like the things that come before the army because that's what Rangers do. They have to stop a war before there's a war. So they did a good job kind of doing that. It was a bit misleading with Will's father. I think we all kind of knew Halt knew Will's father. It wasn't like, you knew my father? Shocking. You know, it wasn't anything breathtaking or jaw-dropping. But I think kind of my speculations, I thought maybe he'd been like a ranger, and that's possibly why Halt had kept a close eye on him for so long. Or maybe he had been, which would have been a really cool idea if he would have been on the opposite side of the war, and then when he was like dying, he asked this guy just like, please take care of my kid, you know. I think that would have been also very interesting. But just kind of having him be no one was a very interesting move, not only because, you know, he has these like aspirations and these images of glory that Will has so long fed to himself, that having his father be no one but still a hero, it was very interesting because in the end, like, it was just a normal guy with a sword trying to protect a helpless guy. And that's honestly the greatest hero. He was just trying to help save this man's life, and he gave his own in the process. And it was so simple but so beautiful. And it was really nice. And again, like, that's something we could have waited a little longer to know, but I still think that the book did an incredible job with it. Ranger training.
Sorry, I'm skipping through this so quickly. I'm really sorry, guys. I know I've apologized so many times, but I talked so much that I can't even remember what I said. It was good stuff. It was good stuff, but I can't remember any of it, and I'm too tired to honestly like try to do this again. So
Ranger training, I think we can all agree, Ranger training was our favorite part of the book. The Rangers were just, as my sister puts it, so cool. And just, like, it was kind of like every child's dream, you know? Like, I don't know for you guys, but for me, I was the kind of kid who'd, like try to make my own bow, run around in the forest and be like,
pew, 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 you know, that's more like a Star Wars sound.
it was kind of like that dream of, like, the cool secret spy with the cloak who can do anything and has cool weapons, you know? And it was put into a book, and so reading it, you're just so excited and happy. You're like, ah! You feel like just like a little kid running around in the forest again. And honestly, they weren't like Batman with all his gadgets and stuff, but at the same time it kind of was, because they had like these special horses with these passwords to ride them, and they had these cool weapons and unique knives and cloaks and everything, and it was just really, really cool. I enjoyed their training a lot. And world building, we didn't get a J.R.R. Tolkien world in this book, obviously, but we were given what we needed, and we were given setup for what we will need in the future. And I think as the books progress, we're going to get more and more of the world. As for like the lore, it did a really good job with like the wargles and the Kalkara, and just kind of like alluding to magic in this world, and it was just a really interesting world. I personally haven't ever imagined a gigantic gorilla bear beast that can hypnotize me. That was really interesting, and just trying to figure out what the heck the wargles were was confusing, but it was a really interesting world. And I gotta say, the plain with those flute rocks were just, that was really cool, really interesting. And I gotta say, of all the scenes that I totally just felt rooted in, I don't know why, but I could just like feel just the dragging and the weariness of just like having to walk and trudge and ride all day with that sound. And not only was that a great example of how well the author was able to really implant you into this book, but also just a really unique idea. The Rangers themselves have a lore around them, and I think it was really interesting and well presented. And first off, if you're going to write a book, don't have a stupid protagonist. Your readers will hate it. No one likes a stupid protagonist. However, having a protagonist who doesn't know about a subject or has misconceptions about a certain subject, hint hint, Rangers, it makes it very easy for the author to teach and tell you, aka the protagonist, about the subject, whether it's Rangers or arithmetic. And so it wasn't like a slap in the face. Rangers lore, this is Rangers, this isn't Rangers. It was very smoothly done, and it wasn't anything super just like,
oh, I guess we were gonna learn about the Rangers now.
And it was interesting. Also, I did a good job with history. It wasn't like super like crazy on backgrounds or anything, but it did a good job either hinting at history or telling someone a little about history, where that was also done very smoothly, where the author wasn't like, hey guys, I made backgrounds on people, but it was done smoothly and it was well presented. It was very easy to like understand, and like the situations in which people would like tell them this made sense. It wasn't just like they're like, hey, let me tell you my whole life story. It was just sort of like talked about, and you know, if someone didn't want to talk about something, they wouldn't talk about it. And so that I thought that was executed very well. So elements and things I thought were done well were, I said humor already. I think humor was done very well. I need humor in my books. And this sort of had sarcastic humor a lot in it, which is honestly such good humor. I love sarcasm. This book had a very heroic feel to it at times, which I think got I very much got that sense, and it was very well done. The fights and the action in this book were very well done. I know action can be a very hard thing to write, and it wasn't super choppy and like hard to understand. It made sense. It was fluid. It was smooth. I think the author did an incredible job with that. And setting the scene, like I said, this book is good at making you feel like you're in the world. And like I said, the part that I felt most in the world was the part with the flutes, where just like just thinking about that scene right now, my whole body just aches. Or maybe it's because I've been standing here for over 20 minutes trying to redo. Anyway, was very good at putting the reader and feeling everything that was going on around the characters. So, oh, and then as I said before, the bullying message in here. Don't bully kids. Don't do it. Don't do it. Okay, so I did, despite all of my glory and praise, have a few disappointments with this book. You had disappointments? Yes, I did. So, first of all, I just need to say that disclaimer, I read this book. I read half of this book last summer, and then I just never picked it up again. And I have that a lot where I'll just accidentally DNF something. And so I picked it back up the day I finished The False Prince. And just, so The False Prince I gave 5 stars because that book's amazing. And so I remember when I was reading this the first time, I really loved it. However, coming back to it after having my mind blown with The False Prince, I was kind of like, but it's still a really good book, and I really liked it. However, just kind of, since I just come from this amazing book, it was kind of just like a little bit of a step down. But it's still really good, and you should still definitely read it. However, my few disappointments, I talked a bit about like things being possibly rushed, but still done incredibly well, which I don't know if I mentioned this because I have no idea what I've said in this because everything got deleted. Halt and Will's relationship was done very well. Everything I said was kind of rushed, was still done very well, whether it was Will's father, whether it was Halt and Will, whether it was Horace and Will, everything was done well. One thing I thought wasn't done well was the climax and sort of direction of the book, which you usually want your climax to be good because it's your climax, but in this case, this is one of the parts where it was too much rushed, and so so my main problem with the climax was the Calcara, which went out like idiots. They keep talking about, if you set something up, you want to make sure it pays off to the amount that you've set it up to. If you're going to talk about these formidable foes who they're legendary, they're ancient, they fight, they're deadly, nothing can stop them, you're usually going to think something bad's going to happen when you encounter them. Like, everyone came out of this alive, which I like people being alive, but just like, they went out like suckers. I was like, what the heck? When they were really hope that this is positioned right. Again, my camera died. Lucky me. My battery's running low, so I'm gonna have to make this quick. But as I was saying, they just went out like suckers. I was like, what the heck just happened? And when everyone had been talking about like, oh, these are formidable opponents, which if you're going to make a formidable opponents, make sure that the payoff is worth it. But they kept being like, we can't get close to them, they're too dangerous. But at the same time, like, their only weakness is fire. And me, being an intellectual, was like, fire arrows, just use fire arrows, fire arrows. And when Will was like, oh, fire arrow, I'm a genius, I'm like, yeah, me too. Apparently I'm smarter than the last 300 generations that live in this world. And just, I was like, what the heck? I'm gonna rush to this because A, my battery's dying, and B, I've already done this before. The last few few things I thought were just rushed. Again, the Calcara. I feel at least one of them should have made it out alive. I was like, both? Really? I ranted more about that, but I can't afford to do that right now because I've already done it. Other things I felt were kind of rushed were Will's father, Will and Horace, and Will and Alice, which even though I felt like they were personally I felt they were rushed. There we go, proper grammar. I still thought they were done very well, and I still enjoyed all of them, which that shows something. If someone can disagree with what they're reading, but they still enjoy it, I think that's truly all that matters. The only other thing was this was a little difficult to read at times, and mainly that was just in the prologue. The prologue was probably the most confusing thing there was out of this entire book. And while it didn't always hook you to read, you still wanted to read more. I'm probably going to give this book 3.5 stars, so good for it. I'm sorry I'm rushing so much at the end, but my battery's about to die, and I already told you all of this, just you didn't know it. Again, I'm sorry guys, this is a horrible review. Lastly, I just think it's a good book. It's a good book. I think this series will get a lot better until it's one of my favorite series, and I'm very excited to read more. Go read this book. Honestly, do it. Tell me what you think. Tell me if I'm being too hard on it. Tell me if I'm not giving it much praise, which I did give it a lot of praise. You just didn't see it. I think, oh yeah, I was going to tell you a disclaimer. I read this the day I finished The False Prince, so I was still just, like, mind blown by it, where this was kind of just, like, a little bit of a step down. But I remember reading half of it before I ever read The False Prince, like, way last summer, and I really enjoyed it. So I think it was just because I loved The False Prince so much. Yeah, I think that's all. Guys, go read it. Tell me what to think. I'm really just so tired of saying the same things over and over again, so I'm really sorry about this review. Comment, like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you can see more of Moa's videos. And yeah, I think that's all. I hope this video isn't too unbearable. It was kind of unbearable for me. Lastly, this is a good book, I promise. Okay, it is. Well, thank you for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time in La La Land.